Good afternoon. This is Gaytopix Confessions. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is my life, my confessions, my story. As a gay man or someone of the LGBTQ community, I have a story, and these are real life events. These are actual, true experiences I've had in my lifetime. There's nothing fake or fabricated about these tales. These are tales of my life, my story, my confessions. Again, I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is Gaytopix Confessions. We're going to call this one Home. As we all famously know, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz proclaimed that there's no place like home. Home is where the heart is. Home is where the soul is. Home is your sanctuary, your safe space. Home is you. Think about it. The way your house is decorated and portrayed and furnished. It all is in representation of your character and who you are, because your house is kept a certain way, clean, or just messy. Home is essentially you. Home is, again, your heart. Home is supposed to be a place of tranquility and calmness and sanctuary, but not to me. These tales are all representation of how I was forcibly removed from my home. I have a problem answering the door because every time I enter the door, I'm being forced out of my house. And this has been going on for many years. And these are my stories, my life. These are real life events that happened to me. Some viewers may find what I'm saying to be disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. But moreover, all rights reserved. When I think I was like 7, maybe 8 years old. I can't remember, but I was definitely a toddler. And I remember it's called ACS now, but back in the day it was called BCW, Bureau of Child Welfare. And I remember, this is so difficult. I hate, I can't say that I hate it, but I need to do this because I need to talk about it. Because even if it's just a camera, I need to release this. BCW came and took every one of us away. There are 5 of us, and BCW took us all away because there was clear neglect and abuse and illegal behavior. Think about it. What does a mother have to do to have their children or her children be taken away from her? And what's more disturbing is that she didn't anything about it. She just let the system play out. It's, oh. I was in foster care for a year, and I was in foster care Sorry. People trying to Zoom. No, there's not any people. They're just pop-ups. And I wonder if people are watching me. Are you watching me? It'd be really good to know. But I was like 7 or 8 years old, and BCW took us away, and I was in foster care, only to be put back in that environment a year later. I didn't understand why, but I was there, and then that's when the sexual abuse happened, and most of my traumatic experiences, because there was another time I was like maybe 13 at the time, maybe 14. It was my first year of high school, and I don't remember much of it, but I do remember not going to school and hiding underneath the bed. I'm trying to think about it, and you have to bear with me because all of this is unscripted. This is why I'm telling you, these are real life experiences, real life events that happened to me. And reliving it is very painful. My mother would go to work, but every time I was supposed to go to school, I would hide underneath the bed. So whenever she would get ready for work, she wouldn't notice that I was in the house, but I was in fact in the house underneath the bed. And I just waited for her to go to work, and then I would have full reign of the house. And I remember this one day, there was a knock at the door. I answered the door, and the marshals came and evicted us. Well, it wasn't us because no one was in the house but me and the dog. And me and the dog were literally left on the curb as they changed the locks. And I remember having to go to my grandmother's house, and we stayed there for a week. And that's when they said my dog ran away, but in fact they put him to sleep, and we moved into a shelter. When I didn't go to school, when my mother did find me under the bed, she would call the truant police. And the truant police is essentially the police. And I'm 14, 15 years old, and I'm being arrested for not going to school. But none of my other brothers were arrested or had any issue, or my mother had any issue with them. You know, it was just me. I remember living in Jersey City. I love Jersey City. It was really, like abandoned and desolate back in the day. But now, after 9/11, it's become really popular, and it's really a beautiful city. And I remember living there, and I couldn't do it. I tried to pay, get welfare, but they gave actual checks, and they didn't. I had emails to prove to them that I couldn't pay the rent, but they didn't consider that to be legal documents. So I had to have legal, actual documents to prove that I was, in arrears, just to help them send a check, which will take like 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes maybe even longer, to the landlord for the rent. Granted, my rent was only $700. Yeah, it was $750 to be exact. That actually was a really good rent. It started at $400 though, but it went to $750, and it was still reasonably. But back in the day, it wasn't. Back in the day, I remember minimum wage was only $4.25 an hour. So it was very difficult to get unemployment and pay the rent. So I tried the best as I could, but couldn't, and so I had to leave, and I was really hurt by that because I actually really enjoyed my neighborhood, and I thought it would be my home, you know, but now I live in Harlem. So, but yet here I am in Harlem, and I continue to open the door, and somebody is forcibly removing me from my house. Someone is always taking me from my safe space. Why don't they come here? What is this? What is the sole purpose of you trying to remove me from my tranquility and my calmness and surreal personality, who I am? I consider that to be an honor when somebody invites me over to their house, you know, because they don't have to invite me over. And, you know, there's also that tradition where if someone invites you over, you have to get a glass of wine, you know. I mean, I always do anyway because I consider that to be very nice, you know, gesture, an appreciation of me being invited over to their house. But those invitations were long gone, and it stopped long ago. It's just wow. There have been many times, too many to remember, that someone has taken me from my home. Even when I remember being in Kabul, Afghanistan, we were assigned a battle buddy. My battle buddy was Private Washington. And Private Washington and I did essentially everything together. We were joined at the hip, you know, and we were joined at the hip for quite a few years. And word started to get around that I was, you know, gay. And at that time, it was don't ask, don't tell. But it was still not accepted by many people, especially in, you know, the army. And when he found out, after, you know, listening to other people in the, you know, latrine gossiping away about me, he moved. I miss him so much. We were in bunk beds, and he was under my bunk for as long as I remember. And when he found out that I was gay, he moved his bed, and it really offended me. In fact, he went on to steal. There was a position called the guidon bearer, and the guidon bearer basically was in your platoon. And you have a platoon. There's 4 platoons in a company, and then the company is on the base, and the base is in a state. So in your platoon, you had to separate them. So there was Alpha, Delta. We were the Delta dogs. Golf. I forget what their name was, and I think it was Hotel, or it was Bravo, and it was Bravo. So you have all those 3 bases, platoons on the base. To how to separate all these people from one, you know, area and one building essentially, we had each our own designated flags. So we were the dogs, there was the tigers and the bears, you know, and that person to motivate the privates and, you know, soldiers was called the guidon bearer. And the guidon bearer held that flag and waved it around and did what he needed to do to make the privates and soldiers scream and chant, you know, whatever their chant was. Ours was the Delta Dogs. We're the Delta Dogs are in the house of hell. The house of hell is on the trail. Whoop, whoop, there it is. We said that in cadence and in step, you know, so it was kind of cool. Everybody had their individual song and flag. And the position was up, and I applied, you know. So I sent my application to drill sergeant, and when Private Washington found out that I was gay, Private Washington applied for the same position and ended up getting the position, and it really hurt me because I did run with the entire platoon. Like, we ran 6 miles every day, so I had to run in front of 40 people, you know, sometimes 90, you know, and I was that person holding a flag and running at that speed, you know, so it took a lot of work to do and to get to that level, and then have your battle buddy, best friend, soulmate, essentially steal it from you. But despite that, I still miss him. I really do, because we were on that bunk for 4 years, 4.5. It was a long time. Then one of my neighbors here, said that I was abusing a child, and said that there was, a suspicion of child abuse in my apartment. And the police came and they broke down the apartment door and they threw me to the wall and handcuffed me. And I was naked. I mean, I didn't mind because I had a beautiful body, but I still felt violated, like, what the fuck are you doing in my apartment? Do you even have a warrant? You know, Moreover, it's like, as they were arresting me, they were trying to search my apartment, but I was like, there's no children here. Any child would have come onto the scene and to see what was going on. We're making so much fucking noise when you're throwing me against the wall, you know? It was really, again, I felt violated, and my civil rights were severely, you know, it, you see what I'm saying? No one knows these things about me. No one knows me, or what I've been through in my life, and it's very painful to understand that. I complain about these four walls, but these four walls are my home. These four walls are where I am most personal, where I am most courteous and respectful and appreciative and understanding and leisurely too, because we can Netflix and chill, Do they even still say that? Netflix? I can't even say it. Netflix and chill. I don't even think they do. That shows you how old I am. But Netflix is relatively new anyway. I'm glad I'm able to find humor in what I'm saying, because this is very difficult for me to actually be saying, and since my dog had passed away, it's they've begun to resurface, and it's do I need medication? No, I'm tired of taking medication that really essentially doesn't help, or puts me in a zombie-like state, or makes me different. I'm already different, but does that give you the reason to give me medication? I'm not a threat to anyone. I'm not a threat to myself or anyone for that matter. I have a fucking dog. Anyone who owns a dog will never be a threat to anyone, because you can get the dog to be a threat. No, my dog is a cute little baby. I'm being watched now because I see the mouse is moving without me actually touching the computer. Whoever's watching this, I'm very glad that I'm able to actually open up and be frank with you, but do you really need to literally stare at me secretly? Why don't you talk to me? Call me on the phone. I don't remember the last time the phone rang. I don't. And I'm tired of calling T-Mobile, with stupid things just so I can talk to somebody. Or sitting here talking to a camera, reliving traumatic events of my life. Again, these are true stories. These are actual events that happened to me. I remember living in the Bronx, and it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I knew I was in arrears because I lived there for 6 years. And guess what? I didn't pay a dime in rent. Ask me how I was able to do that. DM me. Let's see if somebody actually pays attention to that. And I lived there and I knew they were coming because I didn't pay rent for years. And I just didn't know when. So there were many nights that I stood up and slept during the day just so I can be awake when someone actually comes in and removes me from that apartment. And Memorial Day just passed, and I was like, oh yeah, they're not coming, because Memorial Day weekend. And it was at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they broke the door down. And I remember saying, like, can I at least, like, brush my teeth? And they were like, no, you have to get out. So they kicked me out, and I waited a decent hour. So me and Bill Clinton walked around for, like, maybe 3 hours, whatever it was. And I came back, and I, noticed that they had changed the locks as per usual with what marshals do when you're being evicted from your apartment. So I knew they changed the locks. So I went across the street to the locksmith and had him change the locks again. So me and Bill Clinton were there another 2 weeks before I actually moved out. But even still, like, it's just another reminder to me what I was actually forced out of my apartment, and my safe space. I don't understand why people avoid me or anything like that, but you would have to put a ring on my finger for you to actually come into my apartment, especially living all these years without someone coming into my home. I honestly believe it has to be, if you put a ring on my finger, it would be the only way for you to be in my apartment. And of course, I've never been in a relationship, and I don't foresee myself being in a relationship anytime soon, given my past experience. So, looks like no one will be invited to my home, or no one will see where my heart is, or let me cook them a meal. It was lonely at times, but as I said, that's why there's a huge significance with the emotional support animal. A dog, especially living to be 21, a dog to be lived so long, and have that as your only means of love for 2 decades. And it's taken away from me, and it's gone. I remember another time, I was trying my best to run them. I really was. But I couldn't, and they outnumbered me, and there was like 8 of them, and I literally got to the door. I was like maybe 10, 11 at the time, and I had literally just got to the door to put the key in the hole and turn the knob, just so I can get in, and I was jumped by 8 guys. And they beat me up and slammed me against the door and punched me and kicked me and did everything they could literally right there in front of my home. And my family did nothing. There were people inside. Someone could have opened the door and knew what was going on, and we heard all that noise, But no one came to the door, and no one listened to me. I'm beginning to see that as a trend in the LGBTQ community, that no one seems to listen to that individual, and then automatically is deemed to have a mental condition. Because someone acts a certain way or displays themselves in a certain way, like the transgender community, they're trapped inside a body that's not them. Is that crazy? No. So what the hell? It's I spoke to, in many incidences that have happened to me, the EMTs have to evaluate me before I'm transported to wherever it is that they're sending me. i.e. the psychiatric ward or hospital or police station or courthouse. You know, I've spoken to many EMTs, and the EMTs were somewhat like a relief of the stress that was being put on me as a burden. Like I'm in handcuffs and I'm being forced out of my apartment and put into another jail setting or a prison mentally and physically. It's just, how do you handle that? Like, you're not doing your job appropriately. You're you're trying to, if you think someone has a mental illness, then you would understand, common sense will tell you that person is trying to escape their mental prison, you know, and you take them from one prison to only put them in the next prison, physically and in reality, and left alone for many hours. What do you think is going to happen to that person? What do you honestly believe you doing that is achieving anything? Like what the fuck? I'm I'm so glad that many people are bringing mental health to the forefront, but many people don't understand mental health because they've never experienced it or gone through it, and being stigmatized because of who I am as a person does not give anybody the right to dictate my life and tell me what to do, how to do it, what I should say, what I shouldn't say, how I should say it, when I should say it. You're not my mother, nor my father, or any relative for that matter. People don't know me, and they often stigmatize that person or individual who is trying to be their true, authentic self. Just because I'm gay does not mean I have a mental problem. That's a real big issue. Just because, let's say Lisa is gay does not mean she has a problem. This is, I can go on and on about people in our community, but it's only happened to me. This is my story, and these things happened to me, and I'm sure they've gone through similar experiences. But, no. See, I feel like people are listening to me and watching me. They're making noises to do this to me. Again, this is unscripted. Remember, you're always in the mix with Gaytopix. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is Gaytopix Confessions. These are real life stories, real life events, real life experiences. There's nothing fake or fabricated or what I'm saying. Some people may find what I'm saying to be disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. Remember, you're always in a mix with Gaytopix. We're still on home. They always say, like, well, there's a myth or something of that nature that you're never really at home unless you unpack all your boxes and everything is unpacked. And I can remember being in several apartments, particularly the Bronx, to be exact, where I never really unpacked since the day I moved in because I never considered that to be home. You know, even when I was a child, I had boxes because I never considered that to be home either. And eventually it wasn't home, it was taken from me. And oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just please bear with me. Ooh. This is why I don't want to go live anymore. I can't. You're a host. The lighting is horrible. But this is the only thing I have. This is the only thing I have. I don't have much. I just have a camera and a dog. I'm going through something right now. It's really disturbing, but I don't know why these memories keep coming to my head all of a sudden. And I miss Bill Clinton more and more and more and more every day because I wouldn't be going through this if he was here. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. This is wrong. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't want my nose to run because I don't have anything right now. I'm looking for tissue. I don't see anything. No. I'm sorry. But it pains me to even say these words about my home, you know? Like, my home is my castle. It's where I reign. And to be forced out is not cool. There you go, Kay. There you go. It's not cool. No. I have a thing now where I don't answer the door because every time I answer the door, somebody is there to take me away. And that's really heartbreaking to not any understand or comprehend. Can anyone actually be in my shoes and live this life and continue on without a friend? Someone who actually knows my favorite color. You know, it's nobody knows me. These people are only doing their jobs. Oh, shoot. You see what I mean? Look at my composure. Like I can't control my composure because does this mean I need a counselor or a therapist? No, it just means that this is who I am. This is how I am as a person. How I was raised. How I live. What I've been through. To be right here talking on camera to no one. Or are you listening? I don't know. Why am I even paranoid all of a sudden? I think because I'm getting deep into this trauma. Let's go. Focus, please. Ugh. You know, doing a talk show is very hard, but it's extremely difficult when you have these memories coming to light at any given time. It's no matter what I'm doing, there's something that always reminds me of pain. Sorry. I often said that I was. Let's do that again. I often said that I was like, Marvel, or was it DC? It's one of those, the Swamp Thing. Every time he touches something, Swamp Thing, the trees and branches and vines grow onto him and he eventually becomes Swamp Thing. But he's also reminded of memories that caused him to become Swamp Thing. And to me, I touch things or I look at things and I feel things and I smell things and they all remind me of pain. Like, that's why there's so many stories and it just keeps going and it no, if these people all are looking out for your best interest and your well-being, then why the fuck am I sitting here crying? Why? I hate crying because crying is like any kind of drug to me or narcotic or something where someone is abusing it because once you use it, you start crying and it's fine, but after the effect is horrible because it's still there. It never goes away. It's how you live. It's who you are. And just because I'm gay does not make me any different from any straight man there is. In fact, I would pay $1 million to any straight man voluntarily who joins the military. I will pay them $1 million because I did something and accomplished something that any straight man would never do. And it was worse than prison. I've also been to prison. So I don't understand why people who don't know me are able to run my life. I, I'm talking to a camera because I don't have a voice. I don't have a voice. And I'm tired of being silenced. And I'm constantly reminded of people who try to bring awareness or want to help those victims and abuse survivors, but I'm still suffering the pain. I don't get it. I don't. And you call it the suicide hotline in New York City, well, and all those crisis management hotlines, and it's still not helping. You've been to therapy 5 years. Someone told me the other day in passing that having a therapist is like, a barber. You have to get the right hairstylist or barber, to get your hair done the right way, and finding a therapist is kind of like that, and I've been to a lot, but I've reached out to many people for help, and including many celebrities, if you want to call them that. But as a mandated reporter, they're obligated to report abuse when they see it. And I'm telling you, there's abuse and nothing is still being done. I'm still living the pain and trauma of the abuse. And this is why I say any psychologist, psychiatrist, or any medication is not going to help because I'm still living the pain and abuse from what happened and what continues to happen because of my sexual orientation. Most notably now, though, it's the color of my skin along with my sexual orientation in the community itself. Oh, because you're a bottom, I don't want to talk to you. Or you're white, I don't want to talk to you. It's people are always finding reasons to avoid me, and it's And the people that I do come in contact with are forcing me out of me and my authentic self because I have to listen to them and obey them. I don't get it. As I said, this is very common in the LGBTQ community, so I really hope someone understands it. But more importantly, I'm trying to understand what I'm experiencing so I can actually share what pain is and what trauma is and what being gay is. This is not a choice. I don't see how people even would consider this to be a choice. This is who I am, who we are. And we all share these experiences, but yet we all have different stories. And this is my story. These are real life events. Remember, you're always in a mix with Gaytopix. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and this is Gaytopix. I was going to say, no. The screen keeps changing, but I know it's the TV. So, it's just, it was also a breach in security on my number, and T-Mobile is investigating it now. So all these things are combining into something very odd and peculiar. This is why I continue to say, and I will say it, why are you sneaking around? Come talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Come sit on my couch. Come have coffee with me, in Starbucks or something, or a long walk in the park. Like, oh, it's fall now, and there's a beautiful weather. It's crisp and it's nice, and it'd be great to sip lattes, like just going down the street sipping lattes, walking your dogs together, or sitting on a park bench, I would love to do those things, but I do them alone. Someone really has always been trying to take me from my home. And I always have to fight. Why do I, in my entire life, I've spent in my entire life fighting. I really do feel like Seeley because, from The Color Purple, Seeley, I really do feel like all my life I had to fight. Really, I was in the war. I was being forced out of my apartment and I'm fighting. You know, I'm being jumped by 8 guys. I'm fighting to protect myself and my identity and who I am. If people actually did come down and sit with coffee, you would find that I'm a very nice person. But when all these things happen to you or to someone where there's a severe abuse of authority, can really destroy someone. I honestly feel at times like I'm in a conservatorship with Britney Spears, you know, because there are so many people telling me how to live, but none of them really know me. And once I say I'm a veteran or that I'm gay, they want to shove medication down my mouth. No. I also have thoughts of even joining the Church of Scientology because of their natural approach to medicine. I really do, and I don't think medication is the gonna fix everything because it doesn't. Even now with the COVID shot, everybody thought one shot or the two shots were fine, but now you need a booster, and it's not fully safe, and there's so many things that are not safe. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, I can't even talk. Please bear with me. I think I should end it. Yeah, I really do, because I don't want to go any further. I see things happening, and thank you for listening. More importantly, it's a relief somewhat to know that even though there's no help of you know, medicine, you know, medicine is not the key for a lot of issues. It really isn't. I even with the flu shot, you need a flu shot every flu season, or your vitamins, or someone living with HIV has to constantly take their medication to stay undetectable. But if they maintain a healthy lifestyle, no, I shouldn't say that because I don't want to push that. But there are certain medications that are not helpful. That's why there's an opioid crisis. That's why there are so many, lawsuits and, pending litigation with even, baby powder. Medicine is not the solution, and people want to say talk is a good solution, but you talk, but what's the point of talking if no one is listening or no one hears you? You know, yeah, you speak up to be heard, but when you speak up, that's when they automatically label you with a mental illness or there's something mentally wrong with you. Again, where's my voice? Because everything that I'm doing that others would find normal or behavior or anything of that nature would be okay, but with me it seems to be a problem. And it's people, when I tell the story, I find people not to believe what I'm saying or to think that I'm crazy because I experienced what I just told them. And again, it just puts me in that category of people not wanting to associate with me or be a part of my life. And then me forcing me to live this lonely, miserable life where there is no one here for coffee or tea or to ride the bus with or to take a walk to the corner store, you know, to smoke a Lucy on the sidewalk, or a blunt. It's just so much of my life has been wasted already. And now there's something in my eye. My tears. That's why Wendy Williams uses Q-tips. I should do the same. But I need to talk, and I'm getting to that point of it being like, what is the purpose of talking? Just to talk in front of a camera, or not to be heard, or to be labeled something, or to be stigmatized, or to be only forced to in another situation that's worse than what I was previously in. So how can someone look out for, because they all look out for your well-being and your mental health and your best interests and stuff like that, but they put you in places that are not comfortable, like, or they're they have a license to do something, but they don't really understand that person or that community, because my therapist was a licensed to be a therapist, and she didn't understand the gay community and automatically stigmatized and was biased on so many levels, and when I saw those notes, it became clear to me that she was reading from a book because it was almost like she copied and pasted everything. And in those in the books at the time, if many of you recall, if you were gay, it was considered you would have a mental illness. But funny how that long ago, it's still happening today, and it's happening to me. It's happening to me. That's why I said there's so many EMTs that I've come in contact with throughout my life, and I'm very grateful for because they understand and they actually sympathize. I remember one even saying that her brother was treated the same way that I was being treated by the police, and she would hug me, during the pandemic, and I was really blessed at that, because it made me feel comfort, and it made me feel like somebody was there. I couldn't hug her back because I was in handcuffs, but I felt really good that the EMT was there. So I did a previous episode of Gaytopix where I said that doctors and nurses are not the essential workers. I've done several episodes, now that I think of it, where I said that, and they are not essential. It is the EMTs because the EMTs are the first to arrive on the scene. So don't tell me a police officer or a delivery guy or, they are essential, but they're not essential as the EMTs, and the EMTs deserve much praise for their job duties and what they go through on a daily basis. And I don't understand, like, why are these things happening? I know it's confusing to you because I left off at a certain spot, and here I am telling you a completely different thing. But this is the problem that I'm having is that these memories keep coming to me at any given time, and it's really hard to focus and maintain my composure while on camera. But if I didn't do this, then no one would actually know my story or know what I'm going through as a person. This pain and trauma has to stop. This abuse of power, this abuse, mentally and physically, has to stop. I'm a grown man, damn it. Stop. I don't understand why so many people are avoiding me. I mean, many of my fans are probably looking at this or whatever, but I am who I am, and this is Gaytopix Confessions. Whew. See what I mean? Focus, Kenny. Focus. Okay, don't even. Home. Home. I remember moving into my apartment after my very first apartment when I came home from the military and found out that most of my family had passed away and I was homeless. It was essentially a room. It wasn't even an apartment. I shouldn't even call it that, but it was a room, and it was really horrible, so deplorable and noisy, and I could not live there, which is why I moved into the shelter because to me it wasn't any different. Like what I experienced as a child in the detention centers for not going to school, because they place you in a detention center when you're truant, and they don't do that now. But back in the day, they did, and they literally arrested you and put you in a squad car and sent you to the detention center, along with all these other individuals who clearly had an issue with someone being of the LGBTQ community, particularly someone of my color as well. My skin has always been a problem. People never understand my heritage. They always assume that I'm white, and I'm constantly having to tell them that I'm Latino. But it's always been a problem because in the ghetto, I stuck out like a sore thumb. And in the projects, there's predominantly black, you know, people who live there. And like 95%. And I stuck out like a sore thumb. I would have to sneak in through the back entrance so no one would see me. I was that scared. I was that scared because someone was always trying to attack me or jump me or rob me or, stalk me and then harass me verbally. It's it's this abuse never stops. It just keeps going, and I want to keep going, but I can't because now I look at the time, and I've been an hour talking, and I think that's enough because I can go on to another story later. But this episode was titled "Home" because home, there is no home. I clicked my heels more than 3 times, and there was never a home. The other places from home are never really actually good. So what is home? Remember, you're always in a mix with Gaytopix. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, and these are real life events. These are real stories that happened to me. These are my experiences. This is my life, my story, my confessions. Some people may find what I'm saying disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. Until then, have a good night.